Have you ever looked at a screen and just felt your heart sink into your stomach? That's exactly what happened to me when I saw those recent images of Summer Spellman. She's lying there, restrained to a hospital bed, and it's just gut-wrenching to watch. You have to ask yourself, is this just a girl who's completely exhausted, or is she making a terrifying gamble with her own life? It's a heavy question, isn't it? But seeing her in that state makes you realize how far she's fallen from the bright, inquisitive girl who first arrived on the cobbles years ago. She's always been the good girl, the one who carries everyone else's burdens, but now she's hit a wall that's made of gray prison stone and handcuffs. It makes me wonder at what point a person decides that their only way to breathe is to literally stop their own heart. To really get why Summer is in this mess, we have to look at the absolute disaster that is the Theo Silverton case. Imagine being 21 years old and standing in a dock, accused of a murder you didn't commit. Summer was refused bail because the story she told the police didn't match up with the facts they found. The sad part is that she wasn't even the one causing the confusion. Tyrone Dobbs, someone she should have been able to trust, kept his mouth shut about where he was that night just to hide his own secrets. That one little lie from Tyrone helped land Summer behind bars. It's a classic Weatherfield tragedy, where one person's small secret becomes another person's living nightmare. Psychologically, I think this was the moment Summer's internal system just crashed. She spent her life around vicars and moral pillars like Billy, so when the world treated her this unfairly, she didn't know how to fight back with words. She's been internalizing that good girl image for so long that being called a killer must feel like her entire identity has been wiped out. Now, let's talk about the thing that has everyone talking, the insulin sabotage. In Sunday's episode, we see her in that hospital bed, and she actually admits it to Todd. She didn't have a medical accident. She didn't just forget her meds. She intentionally turned off her insulin pump. As someone who has lived with type 1 diabetes since 2021, she knows exactly how dangerous that is. She was willing to risk a coma just to get out of those prison walls for a few hours. Why would she do that? Well, think about it. In prison, she has zero control over her life. She's told when to move and when to eat. By messing with her insulin, she's using the only thing she still owns, her own body and her illness, as a weapon. It's a desperate, dark way to reclaim some power. In my opinion, this isn't a suicide attempt. It's a strategic medical protest. She's literally saying she'd rather be sick and restrained in a hospital than healthy and safe in a cell. Can you even imagine the level of despair you have to feel to make that choice? Looking at her face when she tells Todd she can't cope, you can see the light has just gone out. She's exhausted from trying to be the person everyone expects her to be. For years, she's been the one looking after her 3 dads. She helped Billy through his heroin addiction. She supported Paul through the agony of motor neuron disease. She's been the emotional rock for grown men since she was 13. But look at the cost. Now that Paul is gone and Billy is gone, she's left with all that grief and no one to carry it for her. I honestly think she feels like she has no purpose left. Without someone to care for, she doesn't know how to care for herself. It's a tragic case of caregiver burnout happening to someone who is still just a young woman. She spent so much time being the strong one for her fathers that she never learned how to be vulnerable without it being a life-threatening crisis. And then there's Todd. Todd Grimshaw is the one who gets that frantic call from the prison. When he sees her restrained, he's absolutely floored. The funny thing is, Todd is probably the only person who can truly understand her underhanded tactics. Todd has spent his whole life bending the rules to get what he wants. But seeing his daughter figure do it to her own health? That's a bridge too far even for him. He's pleading with her to be resilient. But is that really what she needs right now? She's been resilient for a decade. She's had the weight of the world on her shoulders. I think Todd is terrified because he sees a reflection of his own darkness in her, but it's turned inward. He's trying to convince her to fight the manslaughter charge, but she's already given up. She told him she was thinking about admitting to it just to make the uncertainty stop. It's heartbreaking. She's willing to trade years of her life just for a bit of peace and quiet, but we can't forget what's happening outside those prison walls. While Summer is suffering, the streets are crawling with drama that might actually save her. We've got Kit Green, who is like a dog with a bone when it comes to Gary Windass. Kit is convinced Gary is hiding something, and he's focusing on Todd's missing phone that was found in a skip. This is where the plot really thickens. If that phone has evidence about Theo Silverton's death, it could be Summer's ticket out of there. But the irony is that while the evidence is out there, Summer is busy sabotaging her own health because she doesn't believe help is coming. It's a race against time. Will Kit find the truth before Summer signs away her life with a manslaughter plea? It's the kind of tension that keeps us all glued to the screen, but it's also frustrating because we just want to scream at the TV and tell her to hold on just a little longer. Speaking of the drama on the street, look at Kevin Webster. He's facing a literal gun in a showdown with Carl Webster. This might seem like a totally different story, but it's all part of the same atmosphere of desperation in Weatherfield right now. Kevin uncovers footage that shows Carl sabotaging his car brakes, the same kind of sabotage Summer did to her insulin pump, just in a different way. Everyone is trying to take control through dangerous means. Carl has reached a point of complete desperation, and so has Summer. It makes you think about how pressure affects different people. Carl grabs a gun. Summer turns off her life-saving medication. It's two sides of the same coin. The neighborhood is basically a pressure cooker, and Summer is just the first one to truly boil over. I've been thinking a lot about the good girl archetype and how it applies to Summer. She's been the model student, the girl who wanted to go to Oxford. But do you remember when she was caught cheating on that exam? That was the first real crack in the mask. She felt like she couldn't fail. When the pressure to be perfect met the reality of her diabetes and her stress, she broke. That's exactly what's happening now in prison. She's trying to win at being a prisoner by making the system react to her. It's a very twisted version of her old ambition. Instead of being the best student, she's become the most difficult patient. It's a way of saying, if I can't be perfect, I'll be the ultimate problem. Psychologically, that's such a common reaction for people who have been forced to be perfect for too long. They eventually just snap and go to the opposite extreme. If you look back at Harriet Bibby's time in the role, she's always brought this sass and sparkle to Summer, but that's completely gone now. She looks hollow. It's a testament to the acting, but it's also a sign of how much the character has changed. She's lost her dads, she's lost her health, and now she's losing her freedom. Some fans think the writers are being too hard on her, but I think this is the most interesting Summer has ever been. For once, she's not just a victim of something happening to her, like a car accident or a kidnapping. She's the one making the choice, even if it's a dangerous one. She's finally taking a stand, even if that stand is taking place in a hospital bed with a police officer standing guard. It's dark, yes, but it's real. It shows the mental toll of chronic illness combined with grief. Let's dive a bit deeper into the three dads situation because it's so central to who Summer is. She was adopted by Drew, who died of cancer. Then she had Billy and Todd. Then Paul came into the mix. She's had 4 different men trying to guide her, and all of them have been flawed in their own ways. Billy has his religious guilt. Todd has his manipulative streaks. Paul had his temper. Summer has been navigating all those different personalities for years. She's been the mediator. She's been the one making sure they all get along. When you've spent your formative years as a peacekeeper for the adults in your life, you never really get to be a kid yourself. That's why she seems so much older than 21. But inside, she's still that little girl who just wants her dad to be okay. With Billy and Paul gone, she's untethered. Todd is great, but he's not the moral anchor that Billy was. Without that anchor, she's just drifting into some very dark waters. I keep coming back to that image of her restrained to the bed. It's such a powerful metaphor for her life.
She's always been restrained by something.
First, it was her grandparents, the Spellmans, who tried to control her life after Drew died. Then it was her diabetes, which requires constant monitoring and restricts what she can do. Then it was the expectations of the church and her community. She's never truly been free. Even when she was free on the outside, she was a prisoner to her own need to be perfect. Now that she's a literal prisoner, the irony is almost too much to bear. It's like the universe finally gave her a physical reality that matches how she's felt on the inside for years. Handcuffed.
Trapped.
Out of options that S.O. What do you think is going to happen next? I have a feeling things are going to get much worse before they get better. If she takes that manslaughter plea, She's going to spend years in prison for something she didn't do. That would be the final nail in the coffin for the old Summer. She'd come out of that experience a completely different person, hardened, cynical, and maybe even a bit dangerous herself. But if Kit finds that phone, if the truth about Danielle, or whoever the real killer is, comes out, she might walk free, but will she ever be free from the trauma of what she did to herself in that cell? You don't just get over sabotaging your own life support system. That's a scar that stays with you forever. I'm also really interested in how the rest of the street is going to react. When Todd tells everyone at the Rovers what happened, they're all going to feel that guilt and concern. And they should. They all watched this girl struggle for years and just assumed she'd be okay because she was the smart one. They were so busy with their own drama, David and Shona's missing baby photos, Hope's flirting with Will, that they didn't see Summer was drowning. It's a reminder that sometimes the people who seem the strongest are actually the ones closest to the edge. The good girl doesn't usually scream for help. She just quietly disappears until it's almost too late. In my opinion, the most heartbreaking part of this whole story is the loss of her dreams. Remember how much she wanted to go to Oxford? She was so bright, so full of potential. She wanted to study English literature and maybe go into space one day. Now, instead of a university dorm, she's in a prison cell. Instead of books, she's looking at insulin pumps and handcuffs. It's a waste of a brilliant mind, and it's all because of a series of events she couldn't control. It makes me wonder, does the universe have a vendetta against Summer Spellman, or is this just the reality of life on the cobbles? It seems like every time she takes one step forward, something pulls her 3 steps back. But there is a silver lining, maybe. This whole crisis might be the thing that finally forces her to get the real help she needs. Not just help for her diabetes or her eating disorder, but help for the deep-seated trauma of losing so many people. She needs to learn that she doesn't have to be the caregiver for everyone else. She needs to learn that it's okay to be a mess. If being in that hospital bed is what it takes for her to finally say, I can't do this alone, then maybe, just maybe, this is the start of a real recovery. But it's a high price to pay. Risking your life just to be allowed to fall apart is a heavy toll for anyone to pay, let alone a 21-year-old girl. What's your take on all this? I really want to hear from you, because this storyline has the fandom completely split. First off, do you think Summer was genius or selfish for turning off her insulin pump? Was it a clever way to get out of prison? Or was it a slap in the face to Todd and everyone who's worked so hard to keep her healthy? It's a tough one. On one hand, you have to admire the guts it took to do that. On the other hand, it's a terrifying way to treat yourself. And what about the murder case? Do you think the mystery phone Kit is looking for will actually clear her name, or is it another red herring? Who do you think really killed Theo Silverton? Was it Danielle, or is there another suspect we haven't even met yet? The psychological layer here is just so rich. Summer's behavior is a textbook example of someone who has run out of coping mechanisms. When you can't fight the world, you fight yourself. It's a way of turning the pain into something you can manage. She can't manage the prison system, but she can manage her own insulin levels. It's a very common trait in people with chronic illnesses. They use their condition to navigate a world that doesn't listen to them. It's a cry for help that's written in blood sugar levels and hospital monitors. I just hope someone is listening before it's too late, and let's not forget the Kit factor. This new detective is shaking things up in a big way. He's not like the other cops we've seen on the street. He's intense, he's focused, and he seems to have a real grudge against Gary. If he uncovers the truth, it won't be because he's a hero. It'll be because he wants to win. That's a dangerous kind of ally for Summer to have. But at this point, she'll take what she can get. If Kit's ambition is the thing that sets her free, then so be it. But what will be the cost of that freedom? On Coronation Street, nothing ever comes for free. There's always a price to pay, and usually, it's paid in heartbreaks and secrets. I also have to wonder about the future of the Spellman Grimshaw family. If Summer does get out, can she and Todd ever go back to the way things were? Todd has been through so much with her, the kidnapping, the car accident, the diabetes diagnosis. This insulin sabotage might be the thing that finally breaks their bond, or it might be the thing that makes it stronger than ever. Todd is the only dad she has left. He's the one who has to pull her through this. But is he strong enough? He's not a saint like Billy was. He's a flawed, messy human being who's made a lot of mistakes. But maybe that's exactly what Summer needs right now. Someone who knows what it's like to be at rock bottom. I honestly think we are seeing the end of an era for Summer. The Oxford-bound model student is gone. In her place is a woman who has seen the darkest parts of the world and the darkest parts of herself. She's been to prison, she's been accused of murder, and she's stared death in the face in a hospital bed. That kind of experience changes you. It makes you harder. It makes you less likely to believe in goodness and more likely to do whatever it takes to survive. I wouldn't be surprised if the Summer that comes out of this is more like Todd than anyone else. Cynical, smart, and willing to play the game to win. And honestly, maybe that's not such a bad thing. Maybe the good girl needed to die so that the survivor could live. But it's still sad, isn't it? There was something so hopeful about Summer when she first arrived with her books and her questions. To see her now, restrained and defeated, is a reminder of how quickly life can turn around. It makes you want to hug the people you love a little tighter. It makes you realize that everyone is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Summer was fighting a battle against grief, against illness, and against a legal system that didn't care about her truth. And she was doing it all while trying to keep a smile on her face for the people around her. It's a lot for one person to carry it so. As we watch the drama unfold this week, let's keep a close eye on those clues. Watch Gary Windass. Watch Kit Green. And most importantly, watch Summer. Is she going to keep fighting, or is she going to let the darkness win? She's at a crossroads, and every choice she makes could have massive consequences for the rest of her life. I'm rooting for her, I really am. I want to see her walk free and get her life back on track. But I also know that on the cobbles, things rarely go as planned. There's always another twist waiting around the corner. If you're as obsessed with this storyline as I am, make sure you don't miss any of our updates. We're going to be digging into every detail of the trial and the investigation. So, do yourself a favor and hit that like button if you found this deep dive interesting. It really helps the channel out. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications so you're the first to know when we drop a new video about the latest spoilers and theories. We've got a lot to talk about, from the garage showdown with Kevin to the mystery of Todd's missing phone. You won't want to miss a single second of it. I want to leave you with one final thought. Coronation Street has always been about the strength of its characters. We've seen people survive the impossible. We've seen them come back from the brink of death and the depths of despair. Summer Spellman is a survivor. She's been through more in 21 years than most people go through in a lifetime. She's fallen down, yes, but she's also the girl who helped her dad beat a heroin addiction and stood up to a school system that failed her. She has a strength inside her that she's probably forgotten about right now. I just hope that Todd, or maybe even the ghost of Billy, can remind her of that strength before she gives up for good. What do you think? Is Summer's story a tragedy, or is it the ultimate survival story in the making? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and I love hearing your theories and your takes on the characters. Do you agree with my psychological assessment of her sabotage? Or do you think I'm being too easy on her? Let's get a debate going. The Corey community is the best in the world, and I can't wait to see what you all have to say.